Alright guys, welcome back to another Season 9 video. Technically my second video. I already put up the quick guide for the secret battle star for this week. The one from the loading screens. So if you want to check that out after watching through this guide, there will be a link down below in the description. Also in the pinned comment down below, and also as a card at the end of this video. So just watch through this one and then go on to that one. But yeah guys, as for this guide, it includes the locations of the sky platforms. All 7 of them, so you know exactly where to go. Also the Ride the Slipstream challenges. Plus, you guys know tips and tricks and secrets for all of the challenges this week to help you get them done as quickly as possible so that you can get closer to unlocking styles for like the rock skin and also get closer to unlocking the tier 100 skin, which is Vendetta. But yeah guys, if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to use my supporter creator code TheLlamaSir in the item shop. However, I'm planning on possibly changing my code in the next few days, so just stay tuned for that update. But as of right now, you can use that code. And also guys, hit that like button down below for Season 9, and also leave a comment of what is your favorite skin or item from the new battle pass. I said before that I'm really liking Sentinel, especially like the dark version, which I just found out about it. But this version I like a lot. But yeah guys, let's first go over a quick overview and then we'll jump into the first challenge I want to talk about, which I have a really good trick for. But basically this is an overview of what we're covering in this video in no particular order, but like for example, you have the search chests at Lucky Landing or Loot Lake challenge. Pick up a legendary item in different matches. Got a good way to go about doing that. Visit all sky platforms. Again, I'll show you all 7 of those locations. Scoped weapon eliminations. Ride the slipstream around Neo Tilted plus Mega Mall. Both of those stages I'll show you how to do. Deal damage to an opponent after using a shadow bomb, and also deal damage to opponents from at least 2 stories above plus stages. Have a good way of doing that as well. But yeah guys, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it with the first challenge I want to talk about, which is basically to pick up a legendary item in different matches, and that's 5 different matches, which is a lot, but I actually have a way to get this done like super fast and super consistently that you can pretty much get a legendary every single game you play, and it's super helpful. So basically the tip that I have for this one is to play in Team Rumble. Now the reason I say that is because in Team Rumble there are the airdrops that spawn like crazy, and those airdrops always have legendary weapons inside of them. Now to be specific, the first time that these airdrops show up is at around 4 minutes on the first storm moving circle. So when it gets down to like 4 minutes, that's when the airdrop spawns. So if you want to keep an eye out for that, or more specifically keep an ear out for the sound of it, as soon as those show up, you know, you can go to them, open them up, get a legendary, and you're working on that challenge. But also guys, you can work on some of the other challenges as well, and if you're in Team Rumble, just keep an eye out for some airdrops and maybe work on this challenge while you're working on some other challenges as well to, you know, knock out 2 birds with 1 stone. Now after that guys, let's talk about the challenge Ride the Slipstream around Neo Tilted plus Mega Mall. Now this one is very interesting because it's, you know, like the brand new way of traversing around the map, which is pretty crazy. You can go pretty fast in these, but in case you're not really sure what the slipstreams are, or like where Neo Tilted is or Mega Mall, since you know the season just came out, definitely a lot of new stuff to go over. I've got you covered right here. Now this challenge is actually very simple as soon as you know how to do it, but yeah, I'll explain that as we go along, because the first location that I want to show you right here is obviously the one at Neo Tilted, and as you can see, I'm just dropping into a game. Doesn't really matter what game mode, but basically you want to go into these like hoops things or in between them, because when you go in between them, you'll see like the wind rushing around. That is the slipstream, so you go into there and you will fly around, and as soon as you enter that slipstream, you'll get part of the challenge done. So that's why I say it's actually like really easy, because you don't have to go around the entire thing, which, you know, would have been a little bit harder, but I mean, just entering the slipstream at these locations is super duper simple and, you know, pretty straightforward. Now with that being said, that is the first stage. The stage after that, you then have to go over to Mega Mall, which is basically, you know, the new version of Retail Row, or where Retail Row used to be. But if you go over to Mega Mall, as you can see right here, there is another slipstream that goes around it. Simply enter into that, and that will be the second stage done, and you'll have this challenge fully completed. Very easy overall once you know how to do it. And then after that guys, you have got a pretty interesting challenge, which is to search chests at Lucky Landing or Loot Lake. Now the reason I say this is pretty interesting, because Loot Lake specifically actually got changed quite a bit, which was a bit surprising. I was looking over there and a lot of the chest locations did change around. You know, it's pretty much updated like a ton, including like some of the ground and stuff around that center vault or whatever. But yeah, basically for this one, I would recommend maybe maybe actually doing solo squads instead of Team Rumble. I know a lot of people like to do Team Rumble, but the thing about that is that, you know, a lot of people are catching on to doing it in Team Rumble, and that can mean less chests for you if your teammates are going for this challenge as well. So I could actually recommend like solo squads, or maybe doing an LTM that is live at the time, or you can just do a few games of Team Rumble, because you also have to go for that legendary weapon challenge. But with that being said, both of these locations, you know, they're pretty similar. I personally prefer Loot Lake because there's a lot of chests out in the open, and I feel like it has more chests than Lucky Landing, but they're actually probably pretty similar in terms of how many chests they have. But you know, Lucky Landing hasn't had too many changes, so you know, if you're familiar with that, you're probably going to know where the chests are. But you know, with Loot Lake having a bunch of new locations, that might throw people off and you might be able to find more chests there. So you know, give and take, but should be pretty easy overall. Keeping it going here, guys, you have the deal damage to an opponent within 10 seconds after using a Shadow Bomb challenge, and then right after this we'll jump into it with the Visit All Sky platforms, which I actually have a very good way of doing that, and obviously I'll show you the locations of that stuff. But first of all, I want to talk about this challenge right here because it is pretty easy, but I still have a couple of tips for you to help you get it done even easier, which is always a ton of fun. But basically, obviously you guys know what the Shadow Bomb is. It is the new item recently added in one of the previous updates. But basically what I recommend for this one is to go into Team Rumble and just search for a bunch of these, pick up as many as you can, because then once you go into like the center battle area, you can throw one of these at your feet, go into shadow mode, and then, you know, try and find somebody, get close to them. And I would recommend pulling out like a shotgun, because as soon as that goes away and you're close enough to them to, you know, deal that damage, you'll likely end up getting, you know, like 100+ damage. So then you repeat that one more time and you'll have this challenge done. It's really pretty straightforward overall, but yes, I do recommend Team Rumble. And again, since it's Team Rumble, you can also go for those legendaries from the airdrops as well. I'm not sure if the shadow things show up in those airdrops. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, but you know, something to keep in mind as well. Now after that, guys, let's talk about the probably toughest challenge of this week, which is the Visit All Sky Platforms challenge. Now, what is a sky platform? Where are all 7 of them? And what is the fastest way to go in between all of them to get this challenge done? Those are the things I want to talk about right now. And real quick before we get into that, guys, if you haven't yet, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below, because I will be doing these weekly challenge guides for every single week this season. So if you don't want to miss those, being subscribed and having notifications turned on is the best way to know about them. So basically, guys, first of all, what is a sky platform? Well, it is not these things right here. When I first got into, you know, a couple of games of Season 9, I wondered if these were the sky platforms, these like floating blimps that are going around the map. Those are not the sky platforms, so don't worry about those. That is not what you want to focus on. Instead, you want to focus on these things right here, which look sort of like quadcopters, but they have the 4, you know, I don't know what you want to call them, like air things, air streams, keeping them in the air. These are what you want to go after, and there are 7 of them around the map. And basically to, you know, work towards this challenge, you simply land at these, or sorry, land on top of them, and that's how you work towards this challenge. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump into the locations and also the way that I recommend doing it. But basically, I recommend first of all going to this location, which is next to the volcano, and there's a reason for that. But as you can see right here, here's the specific location, which I've already showed a bunch. And you can also use these things on the side to, you know, get up from the bottom if you're running down below these things. So keep that in mind, because you do actually need to go onto the platform. But if you start out at this one, what you can do, especially in Team Rumble, is glide over towards this outpost and grab one of these vehicles. That allows you to quickly move around the map and maybe get a few more of these platforms done in one single match, which will save you time. Now with that being said, the other locations, let's just go through a bunch of them. There's one right here near Paradise Palms, as you can see, right out in the open, pretty easy to find. But then keeping it going, you can wrap around over towards Fatal Fields, in between Fatal Fields and that one hill, if you know what I mean. But basically there is one right here, as you can see. Now after that, you can decide to go, there is one in the center, but let's just wrap around these ones that are on the outside. But if you keep going towards Polar Peak, right, you know, near Polar Peak is one floating just below the castle, so that's a good one to get as well. And then again, if you keep wrapping around in like a circle, you can go over towards Pleasant Park, and there is one right outside of Pleasant Park, a bit to the south of it. Good one to get right there, and that's a decent one to maybe start at too, because you can also go to that outpost that is sort of near Pleasant Park if you want to. On top of that, again, if you keep wrapping around, you've got one near Loot Lake and Lazy Lagoon, in between those two locations. This one is also near the slipstream that goes around the map, So that can be another way. If you're like using the slipstream, you can visit some of these as well. But then for the final one, you go towards the center of the map, towards Dusty Divot, and there is one right out here. So I believe that is the final one, guys, but basically if you keep wrapping around to those, you should get this challenge done in no time flat. Keeping it going here though, after that you have the deal damage to opponents from at least 2 stories above plus stages. Now unfortunately I haven't quite gotten to the other stages, but I'm assuming they're pretty similar, where you have to deal damage to opponents, maybe in different ways, but either way I can still give you tips and tricks for this first stage, and hopefully they apply to the second stage as well. Now for this first stage, dealing damage from 2 stories above, I would basically recommend to just go into Team Rumble. A lot of these challenges this week are probably best to do in Team Rumble, and then again you can look for legendaries. But yeah, Team Rumble is great because once you go into that like final circle where everybody's battling it out, it's pretty easy to just build up a little bit. And like, here's a rough example, you could just build up a ramp, maybe somebody's rushing you, you can try and deal damage that way. But overall, just build up a bit, you know, maybe use a boom bow, which is probably the best option, and you should get this stage done. It's really not that difficult. But then after that, guys, for the final challenge that I want to talk about in this video, it is the scoped weapon eliminations. You need 3 of them, and this one too is pretty easy, but you're going to want to do it in a special game mode. Can you guess what it is? It is Team Rumble. But yeah, Team Rumble is best for this one, obviously, because you have respawns, good loot to find, and basically the scoped ones can range from anything from the sniper rifles to the thermal to the regular scoped AR and stuff like that. Also that scoped revolver. There's a lot of options to choose from, so just keep an eye out while you're looting. Any of those will do, but personally I would recommend something like the scoped AR or something like that, just because it's a little bit easier to use for most people, and in Team Rumble you can get some eliminations with it pretty easily. But again, use whatever you're comfortable with. Since it's Team Rumble, you should be able to get 3 eliminations fairly quickly. But yeah, guys, that is going to be it for today's video. Again, be sure to check out my secret battle star guide. It's up on the screen on the top left as a card right now. And on top of that, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more guide videos coming out in the near future. But yeah, check out some of my other videos here. And other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video, and I will see you in the next one.